We love a biopic, especially if it's a biography of a famous entertainer, and especially if the guy just happens to be the king of pop. But the much anticipated movie we are talking about today, first of the two films you'll hear about in this video, by the way, this movie has the unique distinction of being extremely messy and also a nothing burger all at once. Do not anticipate any messy explorations of the truth, and prepare for the most sanitized version of the story of the life and times of Michael Jackson. Starring Michael's older brother Jermaine Jackson's son Jaafar in the lead role, this Antoine Fuqua film is now in movie theaters. Let's talk about Michael. Hello, my name is Sucharita. If you're new here, welcome. On this channel, you can watch my movie reviews, interviews with filmmakers, and coverage from international film festivals. Please take a look around and subscribe if you'd like more. Michael opens with a refrain of "wanna be starting something," which instantly took me back to a very specific memory in my life. I was a radio DJ in New Delhi in India in 2009 when the news broke that Michael Jackson had died. Even on a Hindi language music station, we broke protocol, we dropped everything, and we played Michael Jackson music for hours that day. That was his reach and impact. So walking into the film, that is the scale I expected it to grapple with.
Ready whenever you are, Michael.
Let's see. So we start in 1966 in Indiana with a young Michael rehearsing endlessly under the strict and often physically abusive control of the family patriarch Joseph. So when he's not rehearsing, a young Michael stares longingly out the living room window. He's unable to play with the other kids. At night, under the covers, he retreats into Peter Pan books. The film's early nod to that Neverland mythology that would define the celebrity later. Soon, however, the film begins to gallop, without stopping to expand on any of these, or rather any introspective moments. 1968, 1969, 71, the Jackson 5 book their first gig, they begin traveling, they get discovered, and they very quickly become rich. Well, you struggle to understand who Michael really is internally. Giuliano Cruvaldi, in his first film role, plays this roughly 10-year-old Michael Jackson, and he's one of the more impressive members of this cast. A stand-out discovery, so good. And rapidly, we chug along. A grown-up Michael begins to collect animals, chimpanzees, giraffes, llamas, snakes, insisting that they're his friends, they're not pets. So there is a psychological insight here which is hinted at, but not explored again. Long-term collaborator and legendary producer Quincy Jones enters around 1978, which is a pivotal shift in Michael's career and arguably also in pop music itself. This era-defining creative partnership is barely given any room to register. It's just sort of inserted as a bullet point. Instead, we spend more time with Michael Jackson's manager, played by Miles Teller in a bad wig. The biggest issue with this movie, Michael, is that it avoids nearly all complexities. Jaafar Jackson does a great job physically embodying his uncle. Even though at times his face maybe feels a little stiff, almost as if it's enhanced digitally, the actor delivers an extremely well-rehearsed performance that clearly took years to perfect. But what good is a performance, a very good performance even, if the characterization itself is lacking? Antoine Fuqua and writer John Logan's version of Michael is frustratingly flattened. It is reduced to animals and affirmations. The emotional toll of separating from his brothers, finally firing his abusive father, the arrested development of it all, these are all huge gaps in this very dissatisfying adaptation of Michael Jackson's life story. There are absolutely no romantic relationships depicted, no meaningful insights or exploration. I know I've said the word exploration like 3 times of his emotional life. There's no Janet Jackson. No engagement with controversies, contradictions, major cultural milestones like MJ being the first black artist to have a music video on MTV. It's just mentioned in passing. And ultimately, Michael feels sanitized, empty. For a life so dramatic and influential, this hollow highlight reel of a movie, which ends in 1988, paints Jackson's life as almost a hopeful, and it went on happily ever after story. I think you know the real tragedy and how the story ends. It's astounding how steadfastly the film refuses to engage with the demons of the man it claims to portray. For today's first relation me recommendation, check out Australian filmmaker Michael Gracey's Robbie Williams biopic, Better Man. Despite Robbie Williams' own involvement in the project, that film absolutely does not shy away from exploring the less than presentable sides of the singer. It uses an anthropomorphic chimpanzee actually to depict Robbie in the film, animalistic. This film also explores the impact of an overzealous father who ignores his child's mental well-being, and he tries to realize his personal dreams, maybe sometimes through his own son. Better Man. Before we head to the second half of this video and on to the second review, here's an invitation to subscribe to the channel. There's going to be a little red button, find that underneath this video on your phone, on your TV, and simply click on it. It takes about 4 seconds. Up next, a survival thriller which does not have anything new or nuanced, any new points to make, but it is nonetheless an edge-of-the-seat, enjoyable time at home. The Charlize Theron, Taron Egerton starrer Apex, now streaming on Netflix. Icelandic filmmaker Baltasar Kormákur has directed multiple survival thrillers in his career, the most globally famous being Everest with that huge star cast. You know the one I'm talking about. This one, written by Jeremy Robbins, takes the viral internet question posed at women, who would you rather be stranded in a jungle with, a bear or a man, and turns that into a tight film script that only explores one of those options.
You guessed right.
Run for your life.
Charlize Theron is Sasha, a thrill-seeking adventure junkie. The opening sequence shows her camping literally on the side of a snow-capped mountain in Norway. There's nothing above her, nothing below. That is Sasha. She lives her life like this, one dangerous step at a time. She's antisocial, maybe reckless. A few months later, she challenges herself again. Now she goes into an Australian forest, completely unaware of the terrain. But before the wilderness can defeat her, she finds herself being hunted by a man. Taron Egerton is Ben, who seems like a local, a hiker, a small business owner. However, his sights are set on Sasha in all the terrible ways imaginable. Man, Charlize Theron is a phenomenal action star. Mad Max, Fury Road, Atomic Blonde, so many others. One cannot go wrong with casting her as a headstrong, independent woman with an athletic body ready to rival any weapon or any man. Apex, the film, is elevated by her presence in it. Swinging off the sides of cliffs, plunging into dark waters, running through dense foliage, every rippling muscle of her very able body contributes to bringing Sasha alive. So despite the bad guy Ben being more familiar with the jungle, using it effectively as a web and a cage to trap his prey, and hence having more power over Sasha, this story isn't quite David versus Goliath. Because what Sasha lacks in territorial knowledge, she makes up for it through sheer grit, determination, and physical strength. So they're sort of evenly matched, which makes it exciting. Apex refers to the top of the literal and metaphorical mountains Sasha must climb to come to terms with herself, but it also asks, who really is an apex predator here? Deep in an Australian forest, you would anticipate wild animals to be hunting, except here, it is a regular-looking, short man who's the beast. Taron Egerton taps into something very primal, hissing like an animal on the prowl, but never crossing over into unintended comedy. He's so good. The fight between these two characters, Ben and Sasha, a lot of it is already clearly visible in the film's trailer. And it becomes increasingly predictable as the film moves towards its conclusion. Still, the performances, they remain so engaging. The fairly straightforward central idea is brought to the apex through these two and the director's very clear perspective. Shot beautifully with cameras flying over wide ravines and tall peaks, Apex might have been a great big screen experience. But honestly, this was one of the few instances I was glad to be watching a new film at home, because I had the remote control and I was very thankful for the option to pause and grab a drink of water each time the film got too gnarly. If that appeals to you, Apex is on Netflix.
Let's do it.
For today's second Relation Me recommendation, check out James Gray's The Lost City of Z, or Z, starring Charlie Hunnam and Robert Pattinson. Now, that's not really a survival drama per se, but most of it takes place in a very dense jungle. It's very different from Apex, but it is set in a dense jungle, and it just made me think of that. Check it out. Thank you to my channel members, old and new, whose names are on the screen right now. As you know, this is a fully independent endeavor, and your support as a channel member means everything. Click here, by the way, to watch the latest long review live stream with my fellow film critics, and here you can find a review of the latest Hindi release of this week, Guinea Wed Sunny 2. My name is Sucharita. Subscribe, and thank you for stopping by.